Shalom. First, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKadosh, and double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, from whom I learned this truth. Shalom to the 144,000 elect. I am Mike Allah, and I'm going to play a short video here, and I'll be playing it under 1976 Fair Use Act. This is just strictly for edification purposes. This is not a monetized channel, so this is not in an effort to make money, or this is strictly for education purposes only, edifying. So again, fair use. It's about 6 minutes long, but I don't think I'm going to play all of it, but I do want to play a good amount of it so you can get a good idea of what this woman is talking about. She appears to be an Edomite, but she seems to be pretty passionate about what she's speaking about. So, I mean, you never know. You know, she might be. She seems like she's genuine about what she's talking about. So, but then I'm going to bring out a few verses. This won't be real long, but I thought this was important enough to bring forth, and let this at least be heard. Alright, so I'll let it play.
Stop. Black Americans are being hunted and murdered in Mississippi. I'm going to say that again because it's horrifying, and the mainstream media is too busy allowing the Trump administration to dominate the news cycle, lying about the economy, downplaying the war, ignoring the health outbreaks, and the upcoming healthcare cuts to take even a moment to talk about the Black people being targeted for death in the state of Mississippi. And before you say I'm being hyperbolic about this, if we had this many unexplainable deaths of white children happening in one state, you know the media would be losing their collective minds. One beautiful white girl was killed by an undocumented immigrant, and the Republican Party ran their entire election and then wrote an aggressive...
Yeah, see, that's pretty important to mention. I mean, I know she's using these labels of black and white. We know there is no such thing as black and white, but this so-called Laken Riley Act came about pretty quickly too. Simply after this one Edomite woman was unalived, and they named a whole bill after her, and it went right through and it was signed by everybody and had no problem. So it's interesting that she mentions that, because what she's bringing out, it's going to show how many Israelites have been lynched, all right? And it's just, you can't even get any kind of legislation passed, but you know, we know why this is, all right? We're living amongst our enemies and they don't care, all right? But I'll let this continue to play.
Immigration bill in her name. But we are watching black person after black person after black person lose their lives under unexplained circumstances, many of them being found strung up in trees, and no foul play is being called by the police or the medical examiner or any investigative reporters. I need you to stay with me on this because I understand this is very uncomfortable, but it is essential that we understand what is really happening, especially if you look like me, or you live in the South, or you have a family member, or you yourself are in law enforcement. When someone black ends up hung for no discernible reason, in questionable circumstances, with no indication the victim was suicidal, that's what's called lynching. But when this happens in a state that refused to pass a standalone anti-lynching bill in 2026, the state that didn't ratify the 13th Amendment formally abolishing slavery until 1995, 130 years after it was passed by Congress, and didn't even make it official until 2013 because of a clerical error, when this kind of thing happens in the state that recorded more...
See, that's no mistake, all right? And it's say for because of a clerical error. That's no mistake. That tells you a lot right there. Alright? And I'm just gonna bring out a verse here, because that says a whole lot for the state of Mississippi. I'm going to go to Psalms. Salakia, Psalm 38. Psalm 38 and verse 12. Alright, it says, and this is a psalm of David. Alright, King David. Psalm 38 verse 12 says, they also that seek after my life lay snares for me, and they that seek my hurt speak mischievous things, and imagine deceits all the day long. In the NLT it says, meanwhile my enemies lay traps to kill me. Those who wish me harm make plans to ruin me. All day long they plan their treachery. And see, this is no new thing, all right? As you can see right there in the paragraph that she has up here, it says lynchings in America peaked that year. I believe this is this was when the Israelites had been so-called set free. It says the lynchings in America peaked that year, according to Tuskegee University, but they continued well into the next century, between 1882 and 1968. It says Mississippi had more lynchings, 581, than any other state in the country. Of those killed, 539 were, it says African American, but we know they're Israelites. So I'll let this continue to play.
Lynchings than any U.S. state between 1882 and 1968, with at least 581 documented racial terror killings. The only state that banned Sesame Street because they didn't like white and black children being shown playing together, then you start to see a pattern and a major problem. The adults in charge of Mississippi seem determined to keep their generations of hate and division going strong, and people are dying because of it. We have endless media discussion and laws and attention paid to the 14 trans people who might want to play college sports in America. We have multiple made-up think pieces about the unacceptable rise of...
Yeah, that's another interesting point. You got this LGBT plus community with all kinds of laws. All right, but yet and still you've had all these unexplained lynchings take place, and no kind of legislation being brought forth. All right, and she mentions about separation, about how they didn't want to have a showing of Sesame Street there because they didn't want to show the so-called black and so-called white children playing together. All right, and then separation. Like I said before, I'm all for that. All right. All right, we should be separate from these people. Leviticus 20 and 24, and this is Moses as he was speaking to the Israelites in the wilderness. All right, even the word holy itself means to be set apart, to be separated. All right, because we're different from these other nations. All right, and this is talking about the land between the Euphrates and the Nile that the Israelites had promised to them. All right, It says, but I have said unto you, ye shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, a land that floweth with milk and honey. I am the Lord Yahweh, your power, which have separated you from other people. All right, so the Lord has separated us from other people. It's the way he wanted us to be. We see that we can't live amongst these people. All right, and because we want so bad to be integrated and to live with these people, we got exactly what we marched for, exactly what we wanted, to go ahead and to be living alongside these people. Now look at what's happening. Look at what's taking place. All right, but I'm gonna let this continue to play.
Non-existent communism, but 10 black people found hanging from trees in one state isn't a cause for concern. Why? We know why. And to be clear, it looks like at least 13 black people have been found hanging from trees in this country since September 2024. Most of them declared self-inflicted by authorities. But the black community has been determined to...
Self-inflicted. So just imagine what it takes for someone to hang themselves from a tree. All right, you got to carry a ladder. All right, you gotta, unless it's just a tree that you can climb, and you climb in a tree, and then you gotta find a branch, and then you gotta put the rope around it, then you gotta find another branch for the rope to be tied around, put the rope around your neck, and then you gotta jump off. That's a lot to go to take place before you unalive yourself. All right, when a person make a decision to unalive themselves, they don't want to have to go through all that. It's like torturing yourself before you unalive yourself. All the mental anguish that you're going to go through before you unalive yourself. You know, when it's much easier, a person make up their mind to use a gun or some other way of doing it, which is a little bit more immediate, as opposed to dangling there until all the life has come out of you. It's ridiculous. And I think she's even going to mention that the fact that this most recent young lady who was found hanging from a tree, and it was so high that they had to use a fire truck, to come and get her down. But I'll let this continue to play.
Point out that black people do not hang themselves from trees, that historically that is something that has been done to them. And we know that because one of the most recent deaths was Tysa Fortune, who was found hanging so high in a tree that the authorities needed a fire truck to get her down. It's pretty obvious that girl didn't do that to herself, but who did? Who would be able to do such a thing? And why did no one see anything? Because that's odd, right? Especially when we can track pretty much anyone anywhere now with those horrible flock cameras. But in this case, nothing. And when these deaths are ruled a suicide, or alternatively not foul play, no one ends up looking for the commonality between the deaths. Evidence isn't collected or compared. A pattern isn't...
Yep. Like she said, nobody even looks for any evidence. They just come to the conclusion, oh, this person did this to themselves. That's because they don't want to look. They don't want to find it. This is the nature of the wicked. Psalm 86, and this is a psalm of David also, King David. Psalm 86 and verse 14 says, "Oh, the Most High, the proud are risen against me." And we know who the proud are. Esau, Edom. They're prideful people. It says, "Oh, the Most High, the proud are risen against me, and the assemblies of violent men have sought after my soul, and have not set thee before them." All right, and see, this is very evident that these people, these Israelites, are not hanging themselves from these trees. All right, but yet and still, there's a quick investigation done, and they come to the conclusion that, yeah, these people are unaliving themselves. But I'll let this continue to play. It's only a little bit more left.
Established If these hangings had been ruled murders or even cause of death unknown, then maybe there would be some progress in justice. But here, no, nothing. Remember, this is the same state, and in many cases, the same medical examiner who seemed incredibly cagey on the recent death of Nolan Xavier Wells, the brilliant, beautiful black teenager who went missing and then was found dead after going out with his white friends on the 4th of July. The same white friends who came home without him, the same ones who can't get their story straight, and the same ones who one of their moms is a local judge. In fact, I think the country's preoccupation with the death of Nolan Wells is surprising to the powers that be in Mississippi, because black people have been ending up dead in their state since forever, and things just move along, but not this one.
She seems to be really informed on what she's speaking about, like she's done a little research, but we know why these things are happening. All right. None of this would be sanctioned. None of these so-called suicides would be sanctioned if the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai didn't sanction these things. All right. You don't know what these people have done in this life or even in other lives that they've lived. All right. Nobody perishes being innocent. But I'm going to go to Amos. Amos chapter 3. Alright, I'm going to start at verse 2, and I'm going to read a little bit of this. It says, "You only have I known of all the families of the earth." And this is talking about the Israelites. This is Yahweh speaking. It says, "Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities. Can two walk together except they be agreed? Will a lion roar in the forest when he hath no prey? Will a young lion cry out of his den if he have taken nothing? Can a bird fall in a snare upon the earth where no gin is for him? Shall one take up a snare from the earth and have taken nothing at all?" And I'm going to read that verse in an NLT. Verse 5 in the NLT says, "Does a bird ever get caught in a trap that has no bait? Does a trap spring shut when there's nothing to catch?" All right. And that brother Nolan Wells that she mentioned, all right, yeah, I believe they unalived him, but he was in a position where he had put himself out there with these so-called white friends of his, all right, trusting in his enemy, not knowing that he was amongst his enemy, and then to be drinking with them and socializing with them, all right, go out on a boat or go out on a trip with them. It just gave them every opportunity to do what was already in their minds to do to him. Verse 6, back in the KJV, it says, "Shall a trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city and the Lord Yahweh hath not done it? Surely the Lord Yahweh will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets." That's all I'm going to read there, because, like I said, the men of the Lord understand what's taking place and why these things has happened, because the Lord has sanctioned these things to happen. We don't know what these Israelites may have done in previous lives, right? Or even in the lives that they were living currently. All right, but let me see how much more I'm gonna play of this. I'm gonna go get ready to close this out because I just have one more verse that I want to bring out.
Because the world is watching this one now, and there's a lot more questions than there are answers. Mississippi needs to be on every American's radar because Black people are being murdered there. Because there is no federal oversight on local law enforcement. Because so far, we don't even have media coverage or congressional action. As Reverend Whitfield of Gulfport, Mississippi, a very close friend of the Wells family, recently said, justice cannot thrive in the shadows. When an 18-year-old's life is lost under troubling circumstances, transparency is not a privilege to be granted. It is a public obligation. We owe Nolan Wells and his family and every citizen nothing less than a complete, impartial, and transparent investigation. Truth is...
And see, and there has been an investigation. I think they even went outside of the state to have an autopsy completed, but they're going really, really slow with the rest of the investigation. What their findings are, I haven't followed up, so maybe they have come out to say what the outcome is. But as far as I know, nobody has been charged in this thing. I'll let a little bit more play.
Is the foundation on which justice stands. Every single person who ends up dead, no matter their creed, their color, their religion, whatever, deserves this kind of attention. It's just that Black people in Mississippi rarely get it, and none of us should be okay with that. There are people right now living among us who are lynching Black people. And if you know someone who is doing this, think someone might be doing this, have any information on what might be going on, then you need to speak up. And I understand that's hard in a state like Mississippi when it's often assumed that law enforcement and the justice system are complicit, but then go to the FBI. And I know the FBI is a shell of what it once was.
Yeah. And she mentioned it. Whoever you go to is going to be, they're going to drag their feet, and they're going to be reluctant to come back with a righteous judgment because you got the wicked, and it's not in them to do the right thing. All right, this is Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 4. It says, therefore the law is slacked, and judgment doth never go forth. For the wicked doth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth. All right, and don't be surprised if they come out with after their investigation on this Nolan Wells that he did this, or they can't find what exactly took place, and no one is ever tried for these things. All right, because justice is slack amongst the wicked. All right, and as long as they are in a position, to do this and be in judgment and say what the outcome is and do their investigation, they're always going to side with their own. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end this here, and I pray that this has been edifying to the listener. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rahakadash. Shalom.